Hey guys, you are you and we are us. We are Team Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
He is Captain Foley, and I am Commander Cockins.
And he is Commander Cockins. And today we got like a bonus video for you, something we want to look at and discuss. It's kind of controversial, or it can be, I guess. Samuel, what are we looking at?
Well, a fan sent us a lovely little image of a new ship from Discovery, and I was like, oh, tell me more. And so we saw the comic it was from, and I said, tell me more. I looked at the comic, I digitally scroll, and I was like, Stuart, look at page 7. This is a video. Stuart, tell us more, because I had to get you online for this, to have this discussion, because it's pretty interesting.
It piqued my interest when you messaged me. I was out and about and I saw it and I'm like, fantastic. Yep. And taking a look at it, it's very interesting. We're looking at the Star Trek Discovery Annual 2018 from IDW Comics. This is kind of like a prequel to Discovery. We kind of follow Stamets and his mycelial network spore drive career.
Prequel story of how that was formed, how he met Hugh, how he ended up on Discovery. So it is the journey before. And as the title suggests, we're asking a big question. And why we ask this question, Stuart, this first pitch, I think it's page 21. What do we see on page 21 of the Star Trek Discovery Prime Timeline Canon comic by official licensed IW artists that know all the different universes? What do we see?
Well, we see the Alpha Centauri space station, which, ironically enough, I don't know if it's ironic or whatever, but it's odd. It looks exactly like the Kelvin universe space station that we see in the 2009 film.
All three, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Earth space dock, basically.
So, things that make you go,
And why is this a question, Stuart? And why are we doing a whole video on this?
Because the Kelvin timeline is its own unique entity. It's a different thing altogether. That's why the designs look different. It makes sense. But this is Discovery. It's supposed to be the Prime timeline, unless they've specifically gone ahead and said that the Discovery comics take place in the Discovery Kelvin timeline. But
what a waste of everyone's time to do that.
Say that. I know. And there's been a lot of people referencing that looks Kelvin, and there's a lot of Kelvin-esque things that have been brought into Discovery, unfortunately.
And we did that for our trailer, the original trailer breakdown. We looked at every single piece of tech. We said, is it Prime, Reboot, Discovery, or Kelvin? And it was all over the board. We looked at every piece out of context. It's amazing, and it could be coincidence or more there, because these licensing things aren't necessarily as simple as, well, they're not simple, but not as straightforward as we are led to believe, nor who might be running the show. Lada, lada, lada. Or lada, 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 lada. So what do you think? We're seeing the Kelvin timeline, and therefore Kelvin licensed, and therefore not Prime license, and therefore can't be used under a CBS license, space station design in a comic.
That's been approved by CBS.
And they're being obviously they're very careful about all the Discovery novels, make sure they're tied in, making sure they gave the writers just enough information, not too much, and not to give spoilers. The same should be at least vaguely similar to the comics that are the official tie-ins of this new show. They're trying to impress people. So how the hell did this let slide, or was intentional?
Well, my first initial reaction when you sent it to me was like, oh, well, it's just the artist, the last thing he saw was the 2009 film, so that's what a space station looks like. I'm gonna pop in my DVD and or Blu-ray, I guess, modern era, and use that as a reference to draw up my space station for the comic. That's great, but it's got to be approved. And there's obvious continuity errors if you're doing that, because this is not the Prime timeline space station. It's not just the space station, just so you guys know, that made this. Do you want to go to the next one?
Well, you can see the little hint in the little boxes, but the page 36 we see a
shuttlecraft, and it's exactly like the JJ shuttlecrafts.
John Eves designed 2009 shuttle.
Yes.
Like the one that they got into and then it changed halfway through the flight from the ground base refinery into the space station with the '09 prize. That's very weird, isn't it?
It is, and it's a very unique design. Definitely stands out. It's not. It could be. It looks similar. No. It's the same.
Yep.
It's a longer version, maybe, even though
it's about the same. What's amazing, they still use the Discovery shuttle when they get to Discovery later on. So they knew there were these shuttles. So what they're telling us is that the Alpha Centauri, which is quite close to Earth, no, maybe not the most advanced stuff, is still using tech from an alternate universe set slightly
in the
before
future?
this. Well,
Yes.
something slightly before this, but because again, everything's a grain of salt. When the producers of 09 and beyond, when they say, "Oh, the Franklin is before the NX is canon," we then say, right, okay, what does that mean? It means it's before the split, which means it had to take place in the primetime universe. Okay, great, and because they're the company saying it, that makes sense. But they're a Paramount license, so they have no right to add something into the CBS version of the license. They're not adding to the original Prime, hence why it has to look different. It couldn't just use the NX style everything, because that's not the point. And so they're giving us a not correctly for the era designed ship, which can't fit into the era because it's not allowed to. And also Sean Hargroves was told to design something for like 2,000 years ago, even though it makes no sense. He wasn't given a timeline, so it's very lucky that it looks as good as it does. And so you can't just meld these things, and so throwing it in, I mean, you know that in the older cartoons or comic strips from the 70s, 80s, 90s, they threw in everything, but they weren't as closely guarded. I mean, that was more of a money making, just with, here they are. They even got Proportions Enterprise wrong, the Excelsior wrong, all that stuff. But now with Discovery being on such an information hold, I mean, I find it so unbelievable that 2, in multiple pains, managed to get through. This year's post-launch, post of the show, this was drawn after the show was being made, because it doesn't take 12 months to make one comic strip. It doesn't take that long. It shouldn't do it, then you couldn't produce them year on year.
I think this was probably brushed aside as one of those, it's earlier, no one will notice, it's fine. It looks cool, it's a cool design, we might as well use it.
But they can't do that, because licensing, you can't just use intellectual property of another franchise or another license.
I'm not sure how the legalities work with that.
Wouldn't Paramount say, guys, you just nicked our design Starbase. Johnny's designed this shuttle for us. You can't use it to pay us royalties.
But see, we're talking about IDW here, and I think they have the right to use the Kelvin stuff because they do the Kelvin timeline comics, and they also
we've seen crossovers between the Chris Prime went to DS9, so there has been crossoveriness.
Yeah, with Q, thanks to Q.
But that's a crossover with distinct universes, and also they've suspended doing their Discovery comics because of reasons. So there's no more no more JJ Universe comics. They've now paused that line, which I found quite interesting.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it just happened. That's a crossover.
I don't know. Yeah, it could be that the people at IDW just they think they have the. I mean, they do have the assets for both, and they can use in their own. I don't know, because this had to go through approval processes
Of the Discovery team.
Yes,
because this is the origin story of Hugh and Stamets. Like, this is a very important. And I've read it. It's quite interesting. Like, it's the start of the Spore drive. It's like 2 years of his life leading up to his Discovery. This is one you really keep an eye on. Surely, it's not like a throwaway with Saru when he was 10. It explains why he has this mark here. 'Cause story. It's
it's an oddity for sure, and we really wanted to draw attention to it because we here at Trekyards, we look at it as, like you said, is it Kelvin? Is it reboot? Is it prime timeline? We try to sort that out, and we know for a fact they're saying Discovery is prime timeline, even though there's a lot of evidence, all evidence to the contrary. But we feel like it's our job to bring these things to light and at least show you guys this is what we think, this is what we see. You guys form your own opinions, obviously, but that's why we're here, because we notice these kind of things. And we want to bring it to you guys.
It's new evidence, quote unquote.
Yes.
You can't just. This isn't a fan thing. You can't just write this. It's a process. Like, the storyboards have got to get approved before all the detail in. You know, it's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
So this might mean more than, you know, if this is a JJ license that actually makes Discovery, la la la. You know, there's, again, the conspiracy theories, quote unquote, but there's so much of Discovery that doesn't necessarily follow, and they can say whatever they want. But guess what? JJ Abrams said it's not Khan until it was Khan.
Exactly.
You know, they said the end of season 1 Discovery, it'll lead back into TOS designs. No, it didn't. You know.
There'll be people that'll argue with you on that, saying that, oh yeah, it obviously is. It's just a newer version.
But that's not what they said anyway.
I know.
And the thing has been more fully developed. Like, they can say whatever they want. As I always refer back to, Marina Sirtis said, like 2 years ago, in an interview at FedCon, I believe, you know, they asked her about, what did you actually think of Generations? And she was like, yeah, Generations. She said, I didn't like it. It wasn't great, but press, you got to do the circuit, you got to do... Because they quoted her, like, the most exciting Trek film, like, stuff that isn't obviously true. She's like, well, yeah, because you've got to say this stuff. It's part of our contract. Duh. You know, what matters is the bottom line of money, and so if it's going to make more money to say it's Prime, and that wouldn't even mean anything to most people in the world, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so does this prove that actually it's a Kelvin production, because this is after Beyond, it's after... is that... Well, no, it might be after Beyond, because... Although, obviously, Pike's dead, it's different Kelvin universe, blah, blah, but Kirk is... You know, Kirk was super young in 09, you know. He was 33 before he became the Captain of the Enterprise, and that's 10 years...
32.
I just watched that, yeah. Oh, we just watched that, yeah. So 22. So, you know what I mean? It's a weird timeline, but
yeah,
you know, you can. It's weird because they shouldn't have been able to do this. Now, the side note: if they had taken designs and modified them, it is worth noting that the space station is not like, I believe it's very see-through in the middle dome. This one isn't. But that can't be enough of a change to make it legally a different space station. The shuttle's identical, even the engines glow in the same way that's, you know, the JJ. Like, if they tweaked it to be obviously the same design, but Discovery-ified, sure. But they look basically verbatim, and as far as I'm aware, you can't just do that, unless it's got the money license for it, but then just invent a new one. But what if Discovery said, oh, you can't invent a new one, it's our job, use the JJ ones? It's like, that does what?
Yeah. A lot of question marks in the air. Now, a lot of people are going to complain and say, well, this isn't canon because it's not on screen. Because a lot of people think only what you see on screen is canon. That's sort of true. But the fact is, like you said, this has gone through approval processes. Both write the story, final storyboards probably, and then final product. And legal has to be involved in there somehow.
Yes.
As we've said, Bad Robot, Paramount has the Kelvin stuff, and CBS has the Discovery and Prime stuff. So, what happened? Unless they're trying to tell us cohesively this is going to merge somehow. There's been rumors and talks that CBS and Paramount are going to merge the two licenses back together. Now, how much validity there is to those rumors, I don't know. How that's going to come about, I don't know. I don't know if it's in the process of it. I don't understand all that, but we'll figure that out when it gets released. But this comic is confusing on multiple levels for that very reason, and we just thought we need to talk about it.
It's a bit weird, and I'm not against it per se.
Neither am
I. Because these designs are bad by any stretch, and I mean it's kind of a TOS-y space station. It's a bit campy TOS-y.
It looks a little bit like the space station you see in the Franz Joseph technical manual,
which is obviously the inspiration. Based on.
Yeah.
And the shuttle's just fine. It's like
it's a shuttle. It's a transport shuttle because it's got lots of seating.
Yeah. But it is worth noting this shuttle, this specific pane, is them going to the Discovery. Although then it's going to this planet, then take shuttle Discovery. But it's like this is the same timeline. This is the exact same year. It's the exact, this is the Discovery verse. This isn't 5 years before, 10 years before. This is the Discovery timeline. So, again, not canon, that's important, but it is licensed. It's like Star Trek Online isn't canon, although some people now argue it is, although I strongly disagree with that. it's licensed, and there is the difference. It's not something that has to be adhered to. So if they're doing a show, you don't have to look at what they did with Martok and say, well, they've said Martok has 6 kids and now he's retired. Or the comics with Countdown. They don't have to say now Picard is an ambassador and Data's that's not what they're going to stick to if they do another show or movie or whatever. But they can't have Alita kill Cisco in the past and make that part of the storyline. It has to get approved because it's a licensed production which represents Star Trek, represents CBS or Paramount. So not canon, but licensed. Hence the licenses. So
you can't have stuff going on in graphic novels and comics and books that confuse the audience. And that's what they're all about, is not confusing the audience. And yet this definitely muddies the waters and confuses the audience.
And if you're right, having both licenses means you can do crossover events without making them crossovers. What's the point of having different universes? What's the point of having these legal things if you can? Why doesn't CBS just buy Paramount's license? You know what I mean? Like, if you can just do that and have them cross over and not be a big deal, then it's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah, but interesting. And read the comic. It's a fun comic. There's other stuff we're going to look at. A couple of things in particular, but this one stood out to me. And thank you for the fan for saying about the ship, because it led into a whole new video and possible evidence in the 10 years from now we'll know the truth. And this was one of the little breadcrumbs that we managed to discover. Who knows? Who knows?
Cue X-Files music now. Anyway, so guys, what do you think? Did you notice that these were Kelvin timeline items in this Prime timeline story? If not, now you do. So let us know your thoughts down below. What do you think about the whole licensing thing? And I look forward to hearing your thoughts. So put them down below, please.
And if you want to support this show,
there you go.
Right off there for Stuart. Yeah, you can support us a couple of ways. Either to share the show anywhere you think fans would enjoy it, on the Facebooks, on the Twitters, on the Reddits, anywhere. We do these things, these videos, these long and short form for you to enjoy, to theorise and to do the work so you don't have to. Support us just by sharing, because the more people that tune in, the more eyes and bums to seats we get, the better for us and the channel's growth. And of course, the more people might support us on Patreon, the monthly donation service, to help a little bit each and every month to help this show going. It is our backbone, our true backbone, that lets us know we can keep going because fans like you support a one-time donation, kind of thank you or a tip at Trekyards.com. Click that donate button and give whatever you think you can, and that will go towards our joint account that we do towards trips or kit or just important things to the channel.
That's right. And of course, liking the video is always important because that does help the algorithm. Hit the notification icon if you don't want to miss out on anything we want to talk about. And don't forget to subscribe, and tell all your friends to subscribe also, because that also helps. So until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Connor Guns.
See you in the future.
Bye, guys.